Good day, everyone, and welcome to another discussion on understanding the self. Now we'll be talking about Socrates and other philosophers. And for the first part of the discussion, na-send ko na sa inyong canvas, no? Yung mga ancient philosophers like Parmenides, Heraclitus, and others. Now, let's talk about the father of Western philosophy, which is Socrates. Okay, so what's his contribution when it comes to understanding the self, right? So he is basically concerned with the problem of the self, or basically answering the question, who am I? Sino ako? Right? So that's why I made an activity for you to do, no? An essay about you, answering the question, who am I? This was then the problem of Socrates as well. No? Because for him, the true task of a philosopher is to know oneself. Kilalanin ang sarili. Alright? So despite even if you are not a philosopher, no, it's very important that at least you know something about yourself. Okay? Mahirap naman kung wala ka man lang alam tungkol sa iyong sarili. The skills, the abilities that you have. Right? So that's why he's saying that the unexamined life is not worth living. Or useless na nabubuhay tayo kung wala tayong direction or hindi natin kilala ang sarili natin. Right? Not knowing ourselves would lead us to nothingness. Ay, wala. Kasi nga, hindi pa natin nakikilala ang ating sarili na everything that we are doing is like useless. No? Now, so that's why he's saying that the worst thing that can happen to anyone is to live but die inside. So that's the point why he wants everyone to know themselves. No? Na the worst thing that can happen to anyone is to live but die inside is like, yes, you are indeed living daily, no? Araw-araw kang nabubuhay, pero parang walang direction. Bakit? Kasi nga hindi natin alam kung ano yung sino tayo. Ano yung patutunguhan natin. Wala tayong goal na sinusunod sa buhay. Right? So, that's it for his idea on the self. Now, let's talk about his idea on the composition of every man. Sabi niya, every man is composed of body and soul, okay? Wherein we consider the body as an imperfect and impermanent, while the soul is perfect and permanent. Now, siya ang pinakaunang philosopher na magsabi nito, no? Na every human person is dual or composed of body and soul. Dualistic tayo. Every human person is dualistic or nahati sa dalawa. Body and soul. Right? Now, and we also have his idea on knowledge. No? Sabi niya, knowledge was the ultimate virtue and best used to help people improve their lives. Meaning to say, knowledge is power. Powerful. No? And it's the ultimate virtue na dapat meron ng isang tao para makatulong din sa iba. Okay, let's take an example of what we are doing right now. No? Without those people who are knowledgeable when it comes to technologies, we cannot have this kind of classes, no? The online distance learning. No, we cannot conduct classes because of this pandemic that we are facing as of the moment. No? That's why for Socrates, the only good is knowledge and the only evil is ignorance. Now, let's move to his student, Plato. All right, Plato introduced the idea of the tripartite soul, right? The rational, the spirited, and the appetitive soul. Wherein um, every human person is composed of this. Okay, we have the rational or our logic, the spirited, and our appetite. Okay, sabi niya, every human person is composed of this. We have physical desires, we have emotions, and we have the intellect to seek what is true or false. Okay, we have the emotion that can fuel our actions to do something that we wish to do. All right, and of course we have our physical desires, our drives. Okay, now to better illustrate this one, let's take a look at this. So appetitive soul desires for pleasure, comforts, physical satisfactions, and bodily ease, while our emotions or our spirited soul loves to face and overcome great challenges. Okay, it's also the part that can steel itself to adversity. It loves victory, winning, challenge, and honor. And of course, we have there our logical soul or the rational soul that analyzes everything. Okay, it's the soul that looks ahead, and of course, it weighs options about what is best and what is the worst. Right now, for Plato, he is saying that wala sanang nangingibabaw sa mga ito. Everything should be equal. For you or for a person to become virtuous, there should be a balance between these three souls. Right? Now, let's talk about Aristotle. Ano ba yan? Naputol yung ano. Pero never mind. That's Aristotle. So Aristotle um, said that our body and soul are not two separate elements, but are one thing. Meaning to say, parang na-contradict yung idea ni Socrates na dualistic ang bawat isang tao. For Aristotle, sabi niya hindi. Iisa lang. Okay? Body cannot survive without our soul. The same goes with our soul that cannot survive without the body. All right. Now, our soul for Aristotle is what makes us as a person, or what makes a person a person. Meaning to say, it's our essence. Okay? It's the essence of the self, or ito yung nagbibigay buhay sa atin. It's our soul. Okay? And the same with Plato, he also have three kinds of soul. We have there the vegetative, the sentient, and the rational. And the rational soul is basically about understanding, comprehension, and of course our logic. Okay, and the sentient focuses more on our five senses, how we perceive things. Okay, and dinagdag niya dito yung ating appetite or our physical desires and emotion. Alright? The vegetative soul, on the other hand, is focused more on our growth and reproduction. Okay? And also how to give nutrition to our body. Okay? So now, sabi niya, be a free thinker and don't accept everything you hear as truth. Be critical and evaluate what you believe in. Meaning to say, wag lang makinig sa chismis. Okay? So, do not just believe what others are saying. Okay? You have to be critical enough to analyze if what they're saying is true or not. Okay? So, that's for Aristotle. Okay? That's his idea. Now, let's move on to another philosopher, and that would be Saint Augustine. Okay? And Saint Augustine is the main figure, okay, in bringing Christianity to dominance in the previously pagan Roman Empire. And that's one of the reasons why he was considered a saint. Okay? And of course, we will not talk about kung paano siya naging santo. No? But let's take a look at his idea on the self. Alright? So sabi niya, man is of a bifurcated nature. Meaning to say, nahahati tayo. No? That part of us, or part of man, mali na naman yung PowerPoint. Sige. Part of man dwells in the world which is imperfect, okay, but yearns to be with the divine. The other part of us is capable of reaching immortality. Okay? So he is again talking about body and soul. That our body dies on earth, but our soul lives eternally in spiritual bliss with God. Okay, no? So, part of us, okay, or part of man, dwells in the world and yearns to be with the divine, and the other part of us is capable of reaching immortality. Okay, so the one that lives in this imperfect world, meaning to say, that's our body, and of course, our soul is the one that's capable of reaching immortality. Okay, now another saint is Saint Thomas Aquinas. So, sabi niya, man is composed of matter and form. Okay? Pasensya na sa PowerPoint, ha? Medyo bakit nagbago yung PowerPoint ko. So, man is composed of matter and form, or the hyle and morphe. Right? And we all know that matter is anything that can occupy space, or it's a common stuff that makes up everything in the universe. While on the other hand, form, or the morphe, is the essence of a substance or a thing, or what makes it what it is. Okay? That's the form. Now, sabi niya, our body, or the body of every human person, is similar to other animals and objects. But what makes us different, okay, is our essence. Okay? So what makes us? What makes us a person a person? Okay? For Aquinas, that's our soul. Okay? The soul is what makes us humans. Okay? Alright. Now, let's move on to another philosopher, and that would be René Descartes. And he is known as the father of modern philosophy. Okay. So now, what's his contribution when it comes to the self? Alright? He introduced the idea of methodical doubt. Sabi niya, methodical doubt is the process of understanding the self, wherein, sabi niya, there is so much that we should doubt. Okay? But if something is so clear, okay, as not to be doubted, and that's the only time one should believe. Right? So, sabi ni René Descartes, ang dami. Okay? Yung mga nakikita mo, yung mga nararamdaman mo, you can doubt those. Okay? But if you think that what you're sensing is so clear that you cannot doubt it anymore, then that's the time that you should believe. Right? And for René Descartes, the only thing that one can't doubt is the existence of the self. Alright? Hindi mo masasabing, oh, nag-exist ba ako? No, you cannot say that. For René Descartes, you cannot say that. Why? Because of this idea. I think, therefore I am, or cogito ergo sum. Okay? So you are thinking, therefore you are existing. Okay? Now, Um, let's talk about his idea of the self. Sabi niya, ourselves are composed of body and mind, or the extensa and cogita. Okay? So, he considered our body as a machine attached to the mind. And for him, it's the mind that makes the man. Meaning to say, um, everything is controlled by our mind. Okay? So, ang ating katawan ay parang machine lang na kinokontrol ng ating mind. Right? Okay? So, that is for Rene Descartes. Okay? Now, it is not enough to have a good mind. The main thing is to use it well. Totoo naman. Okay? Now, let's move on to another one, and that would be David Hume. And he is considered as an empiricist, meaning to say, they believe that experience is the best teacher. Okay? So, let's take a look at it. Sabi niya, one can only know what comes from the senses and experiences. Okay? So, that's an empirical view, no? Na as we grow older, we experience things, we learn. Right? Now, sabi niya, the self is not an entity beyond the physical body. Meaning to say, he is not talking about the body and soul, but you know, sabi niya, you know that other people are humans, not because you have seen their soul, but because you see them, you hear them, or you feel them. Okay? So it's more of using our senses and perceptions. Alright? Now, sabi niya, we want to believe that there is a unified, coherent self, soul, and mind, but actually it is all just a combination of experiences. So, in this kind of concept, sinasabi ni David Hume na even though that you will present the same situation to different individuals, no? Hindi isa ang kalalabasan ng way of solving them. Okay? Why? It's because all of us, okay, tayo ay makakaiba ng mga experiences. Okay? You may say, give a definition or your own definition of a river. Okay? Yung iba siguro, it's a good place to rest, and etc. etc. It would be very subjective. Okay? So it is all just a combination of experiences. Right? Now, let's move on to Immanuel Kant. Pasensya na, ano naman yung PowerPoint ko. So, Immanuel Kant. Immanuel Kant agreed kay David Hume that all things begin with sensation and perception of impressions. Now, si Immanuel Kant, sinasabi niya na all things begin with sensations and perceptions. Okay? But our mind is the one that organizes and regulates all these impressions from the external world. Okay? Bakit niya nire-regulate? Of course, it would be the thing that would be relevant is the one that enters our mind. Okay? Now, ourself is the one that organizes different impressions. Okay? And that is the one that is related to our own existence. No? Na hindi yung tinatanggap lahat ng ating katawan, yung mga experiences and sensations na sinesense natin. But then, of course, there's ourself that filters out. Those are not useful. Okay? Now, We need an active intelligence to synthesize knowledge and experience. That is true. Or Immanuel Kant is saying that education is a continuous process that should not stop. Okay? We need an active intelligence that we should synthesize those knowledge that we have and of course those experiences that we have. Right? Now, okay, sabi niya, all our knowledge begins with the senses, proceeds then to the understanding, and ends with reason. There is nothing higher than reason. So, anong sinasabi ni Manuel Cantida? He is saying that, yes, our knowledge begins through the use of our five senses. Hearing, sense of touch, sight, etc., etc. Okay? And naintindihan natin yan. And ends with reason. So, ano itong reason na ito? Reason is, for Immanuel Kant, is more of the output that we can produce out of those things that we have sensed and understood. Okay? So, sabihin natin gagraduate na kayo sa college. Right? So, gagraduate na kayo sa college. What will you do? Okay, it's now the time to apply what you have sensed of or what you have learned sa school. Okay? Through sa work na a-applyan nyo. Alright? Okay. Now, let's talk about Gilbert Ryle. Gilbert Ryle is more of a very behavioristic. Okay? Sabi niya, what really matters is the behavior that a person manifests in his day-to-day life. Okay? Or it's the behavior that defines the person. That's why sinasabi niya, I act, therefore I am, or you are what you do. Okay? Meaning to say, your actions defines who you are. Okay? And lastly, we have Merleau-Ponty. Okay? Merleau-Ponty is more on contradicting the idea of René Descartes that our mind and body are two separate elements, that our mind is the one that dictates the actions of our body. But for Merleau-Ponty, mind and body bifurcation is an invalid problem because they are inseparable. Okay? Our mind is useless without our body, and body is useless without our mind. Okay? And yes, that's why I said the living body, his thoughts, emotions, and experiences are all one. Alright? So that's it for my discussion for today. You may ask questions on the comment section, so I'll try to answer them as soon as possible. Thank you and have a wonderful day.